Hey, what's up with it, guys? Welcome back to another video. Now, if you're like me, you're trying to get prepared for BWL in the coming days. We got about 5 days until the raid releases. As Moonkin, there's a lot of conflicting information because of the phase releases and what's available, what's not, where you can get certain things. I wanted to put together a list for you guys of all the consumables I'm getting together. Maybe there's a couple things on this list you didn't think of. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Alright guys, first and foremost, we have our elixirs. We have the Greater Arcane Elixir and the Normal Arcane Elixir. The Greater Arcane Elixir is our go-to, especially if there's content that you guys have relatively on farm or you think there's not a very high chance that you're gonna die or wipe on the fight at all. These are relatively expensive. It requires 1 Mountain Silver Sage and 3 Dream Foil. I believe that's right? 3 Dream Foil. And Dream Foil is a little bit hard to come by. Mountain Silver Sage I'll talk about here in a minute. It does actually double up if you are herbalism in a couple other spawns or farms that we have as either herbalist or whether you're farming for demonic runes. So Mountain Silver Sage should be easy to get. The Dream Foil is a little bit tougher. I personally buy my Dream Foil that I use for all my consumables and I farm the rest of the materials. That's really the only thing that I continually am purchasing is Dream Foil. It's not too expensive on our server and it's like 15-16 gold a stack, and I'd rather go and farm gold for an hour than sit around trying to farm a stack of Dream Foil in an hour. So just personally on our server, that's more cost effective in my opinion. Now I wanted to mention the Arcane Elixir. This is the cheaper, worse version of the same consumable. They don't stack, but on farm content, if you're going to be it's the first time your guild is seeing this boss fight, you're pugging it, whatever, these are very, very inexpensive, and I plan on using these on any of the content that we don't know the fights, we haven't gone through them yet. I'm going to be using these every single one of those pulls and popping these like candy to make sure I have that 20 bonus spell damage. They require Blindweed and Goldthorn. Blindweed, if you're doing that Mara farm at all and you're herbalist, there's a ton of Blindweed, and Blindweed in general is not very expensive if you're not herbalism and you want to go buy it. And Goldthorn, it's the same thing. So these are a very inexpensive version, so I'm going to be popping these all the time on actual progression content. So I wanted to mention that in there because that's what I'm going to be doing to try and up my DPS as much as possible while not losing all of my gold in the process. Third, we have an honorable mention here, and that's the Elixir of the Sages. Now, if you have mages and priests with the spirit buff, you aren't going to want to be bringing these because you can't use them. They don't stack with the Arcane Intellect and the Spirit buff, but if for some reason you don't have one or the other, you can use these, so I figured I would mention it. I don't think this will be a common use, but I just wanted to throw that in there as an honorable mention. Now, the bane of the Moonkin existence is how many major mana potions we go through. This is a big one, requires Dream Foil and Ice Cap. Again, if you're an herbalist, go to Winter Spring, farm up the Ice Cap. There's also a lot of Mountain Silver Sage up there that you can use for your Arcane Elixirs. And this is going to be the consumable you want to have the most of for sure. I use these all the times, and I actually prioritize using these over demonic runes. So yeah, so if you have a fight and you don't need both demonic rune and a mana potion, you end up using more mana potions. At least I do personally, and they give you more mana than the runes, and they don't take away your health. So anyway, these are definitely a big one. I would get a ton of these ready for the next few weeks if you can farm them up. If not, buy them now. You have 5 or so days until raid. They're going to be cheaper now than they will be come raid day. Now, obviously, Thornroot and the Ironwood Seed, you guys want to go ahead and bring these with you for sure. I always keep a stack of 20 seeds on me, which should be fine because of the cooldown on Rebirth, but you are going to have 1 slot in your bags either way, so I always keep a full stack of 20, and I definitely would bring 6, 7, 8 stacks of these probably to raid, and just make sure that between you and whatever other druids you have, that you have enough of these for the entire progression raid night. Now, this is a little bit of a sleeper OP item that I think a lot of people don't know about. Krieg's Stout is from the mob. I'll throw the map up here. From Krieg in Dire Maul North. After you complete the tribute run, you can actually run back to him and buy these. These stack up to 10. They do also stack with our food buff, so you can use this and the Nightfin Soup, which I'll talk about in a second. And the 25 Spirit, if we have the Reflection Talent, equates to roughly 2 MP5, so you lose 75 total mana, 5 intellect, for 2 MP5. So for me personally, that's worth it. It's a 15-minute buff. I am going to be using these a lot. you know, on just content, trash, things like that in general, just to make sure I have as much MP5 as possible. But yeah, this is one I feel like I don't see a lot of people using, and I wanted to mention that this is currently out in phase 2.5, whatever phase you want to call this. Now on to the Nightfin soup. This is our main food that we're using all the time. You can get the 10 intellect food. This is better though, in my opinion. The longevity is much more important to us as Moonkins because we run out of mana so much. I'll post up a couple of spots that you guys can actually farm this if you have fishing, you know, up high enough and you want to go ahead and you know, fish these up. I also have this recipe via cooking. It's not too difficult to get, or it's cheap on the auction house, and so that's what I suggest doing. Luckily, as druids, there is Moonglade portal that we have that we can just teleport up to Moonglade and farm these in Moonglade. You can also go to WPL, Western Plaguelands. There's a bunch of spawns if you want to farm them in other spots. Also, these tend to have a higher spawn rate or catch rate, whatever you want to call it, at nighttime. So maybe if you're chilling at night, it's, you know, you're watching a movie, whatever, on your other screen, you go ahead and farm these up in Moonglade, and if you just post up for a couple hours, you should be able to get a good amount of these. Now, this is a big one. I mentioned this in a couple of my Moonkin guides. As a druid in all your other forms, you cannot bandage. However, in Moonkin, you're considered a humanoid, meaning you can bandage. You can bandage yourself, you can bandage other people. This is massive for our raid survivability. You don't have to pop out of Moonkin form and heal yourself with a really inefficient, high expensive mana cost spell. You can just bandage yourself. So definitely bring a bunch of these to raids, not to mention your warlocks and mages, things like that, the casters that are in your group that are going to be in your vicinity. You can actually help if they're doing more DPS than you. Spend that time, let your mana regenerate, and bandage them. Don't make them waste that time, right? You can kind of be this bandaging teammate, you know, giving them that Moonkin aura simultaneously while bandaging them up, especially while, you know, warlocks are life tapping, things like that. So just play on the utility, be a good raider. You're not going to be doing as much DPS as your other casters and people in your group next to you, so go ahead and hit them with a bandage. Keep these on you, help your healers out. These are going to be big for progression. These are cheap and easy to get, so there's not really an excuse to not have them. And 300 first aid is really easy to get as well, so not really an excuse to not have that done either. On to demonic runes. Now this is another big one. I farm these a lot when I'm on stream. These generally, where I farm these, they spawn from a lot of the demon creatures across the world. Lord Kha'Zix drops them, a lot of elites in various dungeons and stuff like that. The best place I've found to farm these are in the northwestern part of Felwood. You can also get rune cloth, which you can use for your bandages. There's also a mountain silver sage spawn that you can get for your greater arcane elixirs. And you can get fell cloth simultaneously, which you're going to actually want those for phase 4 to get your bloodvine set, because you need those mooncloth cooldowns, things like that. So it's actually a really good farm. In general, you can get a little bit of everything there. It's also close to winter spring, and it's also close to Moonglade itself. So it's really good for us. We can kind of get all of our farming done in a really small proximity area, not having to fly all over the place. So if you spend a day or two kind of running around doing all your errands, getting all your farming done, you can do that. Now I definitely suggest having a lot of these and a lot of mana potions. Those are going to be your two biggest things that you're going to want for the progression content. You don't want to be going and you want to be saving your innervate for your healers on progression if you can. Kind of an honorable mention on this, the dark runes spawn in Skullomance, so you can actually farm that as well. Generally speaking, the healer of the group puts these on res. Maybe that's you and you want to go ahead and heal the group. Just wanted to mention that this is a faster farm. You get more runes, and you get all the other things I mentioned that are kind of your, you know, farming multiple things at one time. But it's up to you, whatever floats your boat. One last honorable mention is the Flask of Supreme Power. Now the Flask of Supreme Power is our biggest consumable that we can use. On our server, on Herod, they are very expensive. It's around 200 gold a pop. Black Lotus are hard to come by. I'm sure I'll post the mats up here, but I'm sure all you guys are very familiar with these. If you can afford these on your server and they're not this big pain in the ass, then by all means. But Herod is way too packed with people. It's very hard to get Black Lotus, and it's very, very expensive to get these. I have some Black Lotus saved. I'm not planning on using those though for progression, at least not initially. We'll see after the first week or so of clearing BWL. I just want to make sure if we're doing it, you know, you want 2 hours of really high efficient pulls and things like that if you're going to be doing something that's costing 200 gold, you know. So with that being said, I'm not going to be using it. That's why you don't see it in my bags. But if you're able to afford it, or if you are able to farm it, you're on a server that's less populated, they're not 200 gold a pop, by all means, that's definitely the biggest DPS increase that you're going to gain from a single consumable. Okay guys, That being said, I'm going to be streaming after I post this video, so if you want to come hang out, you have any questions on any of this, by all means, the stream is the best way to do it because I'm always able to answer your questions and kind of elaborate on things that I might not have in this video. Please hit me with a thumbs up if you like this. Hopefully you found something helpful, maybe something you didn't think about or weren't aware of as far as a consumable you can use. If there's anything I forgot, let me know down below because I would love to know if there's something I didn't mention in here that you guys are bringing to raid. That being said, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.